Hi guys, it's Kat at Spiritual Candy. I hope you're really well and are having a good week. I'm here with a special video today, much requested over time, and something I feel really super passionate about, and I'm really glad to be sharing this with you guys. So it's all about anxiety. I really get this. I have had a lot of anxiety in my life. I've had sort of, I would almost say, like chronic anxiety at times. So I'm really excited to talk to you about it today, my experience and what I do that is perhaps a bit different to deal with anxiety, and how I've managed to manage it in my life and feel free from it. So here we go. Okay, so today is all about anxiety. It's not a 101, it's not a beginner's guide, it's not a rundown of all the, you know, standard things that people say, do this, do that when you've got anxiety. Because the truth of the matter is, if you suffer with anxiety, you will have already tried all those things out. You'll already be doing your meditation, you'll already be hopefully you'll already be doing all those sorts of things, and the truth of the matter is, there's a huge wealth of information out there about how to deal with anxiety. Thankfully it's becoming much more mainstream, much more acceptable. Mental health awareness is much greater. So you know, you will probably have seen all those sorts of things. If you haven't, feel free to message me, check them out. If you type it in on Google or in here, anywhere, there will be loads and loads of practical advice about anxiety. What I'm interested in sharing with you today are those things that really sorted it out for me, the things that really worked for me, the things that like gave me aha moments regarding my anxiety and helped my anxiety become a gift and something that I could actually use and work with, something and things that actually stopped me from being at the mercy of the anxiety. So they were kind of like, it's coming at it from a slightly different way, if you like, doing things slightly differently. So they're things that I don't generally hear other people talking about. Okay, so that's where we're going with this today. Before I really get too much into it, I am going to say it's a bit of a disclaimer, but also it's just common sense. If you have chronic anxiety, if you have any feelings that are to do, like suicidal feelings, really, you know, major anxiety feelings that are really crippling you, do reach out to a professional, your doctor, a mental health professional. You know, get help, because you may need it. There have been times I have had to do that. There's no shame in it, and it's something you should do, okay? So this is not in any way to kind of like compensate for that sort of medical help. I'm not a mental health professional. I've just had a lot of experience with mental health, okay? So let's move straight on to why I feel I can talk about this. Like I say, I'm not a professional, but I feel I've got quite a lot of authority in this area to talk about it, because mental health is a massive issue in my circle, as in my family, on both sides of my family, my mother's side and my father's side. There's a lot of mental health issues. I myself have had a couple of breakdowns. I've had massive problems with anxiety. I've had issues with depression. I'm well and happy, but those two things are not mutually exclusive. You can have mental health issues and have a perfectly happy functioning life. It's just like anything else. It's something you have to learn to manage and deal with, okay? So that's the sort of the core of why I feel I can have something to offer to you in this area. So let's get down to it. I've got 4 points that I want to make that I feel are not necessarily regularly covered by other people. So let's get on with it. Now, point number 1, I can't actually remember who said this, but when I heard this resonated so much with me, and it gave me an aha, and it made me feel so much better and differently about anxiety. And it was that anxiety is not a feeling, it's not an emotion, it's a response to holding back or holding in an emotion, a feeling, a thought, Okay, so rather than it being the actual emotional response, it's a response to not allowing yourself to have an emotional response. This for me made a huge impact, because what it did, it told me my anxiety was trying to tell me something. I was repressing or holding something back, and that was why I had the anxiety. So just take a bit of time and ask yourself, in those things that we all do if we have any anxiety issues, you know, the quiet time, the meditation, ask yourself, what is this? What is it that I'm repressing? What is it that I'm holding back? What is it? You know, because there'll be some reason, there'll be something underneath, you know, that you are holding yourself back for whatever reason, whether it's shame, whether it's guilt, whether it's, you know, not wanting to overshadow someone. You know, there are so many things. Lack of confidence, lack of knowing who you really are. There's so many things. But I love that the anxiety isn't a feeling. It's a response to a feeling, or a response to a feeling or thinking state. And I think it's so crucial to really get that, because it informs you and it gives you your power back. Because one of the things I found the hardest about anxiety is that when you are very anxious, there is a sense that it's coming from nowhere often. Because people who have chronic anxiety don't often get, well, we do get anxious about something, but generally it's just there. You know, so for example, I'm thinking of someone in particular who used to regularly wake up in the morning and just feel anxious for no reason. When we're anxious about something, like a normal anxiety is, I've got a test and I'm worried about it. That's a kind of normal response, isn't it? I'm anxious because something's going to happen. When that thing goes away, I'm all right again. You know, that's normal. But when we don't know why we're anxious, and it's that's kind of, and we're just anxious for no reason, apparently no reason, that's kind of scary, because it makes you feel like totally powerless. Yeah. So what I love about this is that the reason we can't find out what it is because it's something we're repressing. So it's not something that's happening out here, it's something that's happening in here. So it gives you the power to go and change that and to do something about it, which I love. The second point is pretty simple but massively overlooked, I feel. Overstimulation. If you are an empath, a light worker, a healer, a mender, any sort of highly sensitive person, you are going to find that this modern world, particularly if you live in the Western world, that's go, and very much focused on extrovert, sort of external noisy circumstances, you will probably find that you get very easily overstimulated, and that is probably a massive trigger for your anxiety. Now, by anxiety, just to be clear, anxiety and worry are not necessarily the same thing. What I find is I get physiological anxiety symptoms when I am in an environment that is too stimulating. So if it's very hot, very noisy, very cold, if it's very bright, if it's, and those, you know, those type of things, any sort of external stimuli or situation that is, that any sort of combination of those things, that's what I was trying to get at. So if it's really hot, but it's calm, and there's not a lot going on, I'm okay with that. If it's really hot, if it's really noisy, if there are a lot of people, this then starts to trigger a physiological anxiety response. Literally like my body is in overload. Okay, so my heart starts to go, I start to feel dizzy, and I start to feel the pressure in my head, all those types of things. I wouldn't say I necessarily have panic attacks, although I have had in those situations, but generally it's just, it brings out those physiological symptoms. I just don't think we always recognise that overstimulation is a massive factor. And so literally going into a dark room or closing your eyes and being in a quiet place just for 5 minutes can actually bring the anxiety level right down. But I think sometimes if we are afraid of our anxiety, if we feel like anxiety rules us rather than us being in control of it, what can happen is we panic and we try to get busy to try and distract ourselves from the anxiety, but that only loads the system more, which creates more anxiety. So I think sometimes it's like point one was very much about what this anxiety symbolizes, but I think point two and point three that I'm going to make shortly is very much about the physiological and the mind-body connection and how we work if we are highly sensitive. And the fact that if we are highly sensitive, what we're going to find is that we really struggle at times when we have a lot of information coming in. You know, the reality is that in our fast-paced world, the truth of the matter is it's really a little bit too fast for pretty much all of us. But if we are highly sensitive, that strain on the system of that constant can actually create anxiety. So point three is sort of similar to point two, and that is if you have a lot of change or a big shock. So one of my major anxiety times, which left me kind of like housebound for months, was when I changed my location, my home, my job and my partner, 4 things, all in one go. And it put my system into complete overload and anxiety. Equally, this can happen with a big shock. So this could be anything from breaking up with a partner, losing someone precious to you, whether that's through death or any other way. But it doesn't even need to be anything that from an outside point of view would seem that significant. I've experienced a sort of trigger with a loss of a pet. Not that I'm saying that's any less of a loss, but what I mean is it doesn't even need to be anything like that. It can be something like I say, just moving to a different house. You know, any sort of change can shock your system. And if your system is shocked, so this can be also something like having some sort of experience. So seeing an accident or hearing something shocking, anything that really makes you feel shocked. When you've had that shock, your body and your mind needs processing time. It's not something I've heard that many people talk about. I'm pretty sure it's Martha Beck, who I'm a massive fan of. If you have not read Martha Beck's books, read them. They're amazing, and she is amazing. But you need processing time. So you need the ability, you need time and space for your mind and your body to adjust to that massive change of information. You know, don't respect and value the information that your mind-body system is giving you. If you feel a massive shock, it's not advisable to kind of say, well, that's weird, why am I feeling like that? Rather than that, respect it and say, okay, I'm feeling this way, so it's obviously something significant. Yeah, rather than intellectualizing it and saying, I have no reason to feel like this, or why am I feeling like this? I'm feeling like this because I'm feeling like this. This is a piece of information coming in or coming out that's telling me this is a big deal to me and I need to do something about it. And what you need to do is give yourself processing time. So this can be sitting and staring, meditation, quiet, but it's literally taking the stimulation away from you and allowing your brain, your mind, your body, the whole mind-body connection to process what has happened to you. Number 4 is kind of covered by people, but it's a massive thing and I don't think it is emphasized enough, and that's the shame driver. Okay, and I'm hopeful that I can explain this well enough, what I feel about this. What I mean by the shame driver is that we feel that if we have anxiety, that means that we are broken, or there is something wrong with us, or that we are a person with mental health problems. So, you know, we are like, we have a disability that is our mental health, okay? And a lot of people are afraid to say I have anxiety, and you may be one of them, because you feel like, well, that means that I'm like forever cursed with this like horrible thing, or that I'm not very strong or whatever. And that's really, really damaging and really, really annoying, because I think a lot of people, instead of accepting and welcoming their anxiety and saying, okay, what's it trying to teach me, and then just moving on with their lives, because they're afraid to admit that they're anxious, this causes anxiety, and they're always running away from it. So that then brings in overstimulation. It then brings in like move, 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 change, 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 which again brings in anxiety. And also, you're not acknowledging the feeling that's underneath the anxiety, because you're always on the go. So it's like not accepting the anxiety because you're so shame ridden about it makes it so much worse, and stops it from being a gift that's actually just trying, you know, a response from your mind body system to something that's happening in you, and a response to the world, you know. So I think one of the massive things that's a massive help nowadays is to get on Google or get on here on YouTube and recognize that you are not odd. You are not, when I say you're not different, we're all different, but you know, there's nothing wrong with you because you have anxiety. You know, some of the most amazing people have anxiety. And there's not a type of person that's anxious as well. I think there's two things going on here. One, the feeling that I'm the only one that has this, that sense of isolation that drives you deeper and deeper into sort of isolation and away from people, can make the anxiety worse. So get on YouTube, get on Google, and recognize that loads of people have it, and that there's no shame in it, and it actually doesn't really make any difference to your life. If you can accept it and learn from it and then get on with your life, you will have a fantastic and amazing life, and you know, no different to someone who doesn't have anxiety, you know. So that's something to be sort of kind of to register, if you like. The other thing is, I do need to tread carefully here because I don't want to offend anyone, but there's a kind of nucleus of people that have anxiety, and then they are very, by nature, if you have anxiety, you are going to have periods where, just like if you have depression, where you get very doom and gloom, you take on the identity of anxiety or depression, and you make your whole life about it, and then you tend to attract people who are also like that, and it becomes almost like quicksand. It's a very negative, it's got a very bad vibe, clearly, because it's not coming from a good mental or feeling place. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not a very balanced environment. And I think that one of the things that scares a lot of people, and scared me when I was initially having a lot of anxiety when I was a younger woman and trying to look into it, it scared me because I didn't want to become like that. I didn't want that. So I kind of was rejecting the label and like, oh, I don't want to be like that. The reality is there are loads of different people. The people who are like, we all know them, don't we? Someone who just loves to be a victim, and I'm just going to go straight in there, and if I offend anyone, I apologise. But people who just want to be a victim, they've always got a sad story to tell you, they just can't help themselves. There are people like that who don't have anxiety, and there are people like that who do have anxiety. There are people who have anxiety but are also, some, you know, other times really funny, really high functioning, really happy people, or people, you know, every different type of person in the world, there are people within that group of people, does that make sense, that have anxiety, you know. So you don't have to worry that you're going to suddenly, by accepting you have anxiety and taking on that sort of idea, that you are going to have to fall into this category of being this kind of like doom and gloom person. That's really what I'm saying. And if I've offended anyone by saying that, I apologise, because that is not my that's not my intention. I just know that this is a massive thing for me, this sense of shame and fear that if I accept that I have anxiety, that I'm going to become isolated from happy, motivated people, because I'm not like that now. Because I have anxiety, I can't be that type of a person. and that I'm going to get drawn into this world where I can't get out. And that was my intuitive sense telling me, don't identify with this. You can have anxiety and welcome it in and love it and learn from it without getting into this quicksand situation. Anyway, this video is like half an hour long now, but I do think it's such an important topic, and I really hope it's helped somebody. Please just bear in mind, I'm not a professional. If you found this offensive in any way, or you don't agree with anything, that's, you know, that is fine. It's only my experience. So I hope it's helped somebody. Please reach out to me in the comments. Please leave a comment if you want to. Guys, I love you so much, and I will see you on the next video. Mwah.